Testing, testing. Testing. Testing, testing. Can you hear me? Abel, thanks for joining. You know it. I got some updates for MetaPlanet, so stay tuned. I got some deep dives. Gave you a little preview there. We'll give it a few minutes once people join. But thank you guys for joining. Happy Sunday, everyone. So where is everyone watching from, by the way? I appreciate you, Abel, for your request with MetaPlanet. I know it's definitely a hot topic. We'll cover all of that. H-Town just got here from SoCal. That's cool, man. Thank you for joining. I used to live in Irvine, California. Went to school out there. All right, so we'll give it a few more minutes till we have others join. But it looks like we're seeing some nice movements with, Bitcoin, Elsinore. Where is that close to, by the way? We have Abel from H-Town. We have C8Zzar from SoCal. I'm in the Bay Area. We got a lot to talk about today. There's so much good news with Bitcoin, but we'll go ahead and get started in a few here. I hope you all are having a great Sunday. Down to the 15. Okay, so you're heading close to the Vegas area. So there's the Bitcoin conference. That's going to be awesome. I'll be going there as well. During the Memorial Week Bitcoin conference. I'll share with you all how that experience is, but there's a lot of exciting things that's going to be going on. Bitcoin prices, hovering above that 100,000. We got a lot to talk about, and thank you all for, joining today. We'll start in about another minute. Give some time for others to join. 4 hours from Vegas. So Vegas, it's going to be popping. I mean, the Bitcoin conference. It'll be my very first conference, going to a Bitcoin event. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. I'll share all the updates. All right. Well, thank you all for joining. Happy Sunday. We have a lot to talk about with Bitcoin. Crypto markets are roaring. Most of you are wondering, are we going to see Bitcoin run up? I mean, just looking at the fear to greed, we're at that 66 range. CMC is telling us that, at one point back in like early April, we were in the extreme greed, extreme fear, where everyone was like afraid at that time. People were like selling off. Bitcoin outflows, it was like just draining out because people were just selling and just, taking their stop losses. People were worried. But what happened since then? Bitcoin roared back to 100K right now. It's up in the 104,000. We're definitely seeing some huge upside today. We'll be covering a lot about Bitcoin news, what's so exciting around the Bitcoin markets. We have the Bitcoin conference coming up as well. There's going to be a lot of upside coming. Thank you, BJ, for joining, MS USA. Let me know where everyone is, watching from, and thank you for joining the live stream. We'll talk about CleanSpark as well, but put your questions in the chat. I'll cover all of that. Any requests that you have, put it in the chat. We'll go ahead and get started. I'll first off share with you my updates, and then we'll do like live Q&As where I'll answer every question that you have. So whatever question you can think of, put it in the chat. We'll cover it all. All right, so Bitcoin right now is hovering at 104,000. I mean, it's surpassed 100K. This is all from the institutional investments. I mean, each day there's only a certain amount of Bitcoin available. With every block that's mined, there's not enough supply out there. And strategy, this last 5 months, they've been just buying left and right. It, along with like BlackRock, financial institutions. We'll definitely keep track of Bitcoin, but right now 104,000. Earlier during the day, we saw Bitcoin hover up to 106,000. So question is, are we going to break through that all-time high? At one point, we were only less than 3% away from reaching the all-time high. So definitely going to be very exciting as we head into the Monday's market. Let's take a look at the Bitcoin rainbow chart. So where are we now? So the last halving event was about a year ago, April 2024. What happens for every halving event? Well, it's going to be harder to mine Bitcoin. Bitcoin becomes more scarce. The margins for mining Bitcoin, it becomes less. What does that mean? Obviously, when supply gets cut by half, when things get more difficult to mine Bitcoin, that will result in a higher price. So when we look at the rainbow chart, what happens for every halving event? We see the price of Bitcoin shooting up to the yellow, orange, and red hue. Mostly in every Bitcoin cycle. Right now, we haven't seen that happen yet. So we're forecasting that in this year, there's going to be a big time run up for Bitcoin price. I mean, there's even talks about how Bitcoin can get up to like 250,000 to even $1 million. So, the sky is the limit right now. Bitcoin, the last 13 years, has proven itself as the top asset class. Again, it's not the top asset class currently. I mean, gold is at number one with like $21 trillion, but at one point, Bitcoin is just going to bypass gold. Let's take a look at this post. I mean, one of the interesting things is we have the top 85 companies strategy, 568,000 Bitcoins. Saylor posted another update today. So we're forecasting that there's going to be another purchase strategy is going to, announce how much Bitcoin they have. So they might be over like 570,000 Bitcoin come tomorrow. Mara, a big time Bitcoin miner, I mean, they're flirting with 50,000 Bitcoin. It's very hard to even get like above 10,000 Bitcoin. But the fact that Mara is going to get close to that 50,000 threshold, that's going to be huge, because once Bitcoin price, shoots up to like 150, 200K, Mara's market cap is going to be huge. And where the current MNAV is right now, share price is significantly undervalued. We'll also be covering 21 Capital, very exciting company. I mean, just with the CEP stock opening up with the SPAC shares, I mean, it went from like $12 and it shot up to like $60. We'll cover the technicals on that along with the fundamentals, currently at 36,000 Bitcoin. So Tether continues to buy Bitcoin with support of 21's total HODL. Riot Platforms, currently at 19,211 Bitcoins. getting close to that 20,000 threshold. So definitely huge upside as well with a Bitcoin mining facility where they are positioning into HPC AI as well. Now, we hear a lot from Trump with his initiative to make the United States the Bitcoin, crypto, and AI powerhouse. That's going to be the United States. We've been hearing a lot about deals, especially with the Middle East recently, where Trump traveled to the Middle East, having partnerships with United Emirates, along with Saudi Arabia, having trillions of dollars invested into the United States. So that's really going to drive up the AI-based type of companies like NVIDIA, AMD. Now, think about SoftBank with the Stargate project. Stargate project. I mean, when you look at Texas, there's going to be a demand for like facilities that have energy capacity, and Riot is a company that has that offering. So definitely, there's going to be some huge upside with companies that have energy wattage, along with like CleanSpark, a pure Bitcoin miner play at 12,000 Bitcoin. What's interesting is Ukraine even has a big time hodl. I mean, they have 46,000 Bitcoin. We haven't heard about this, but they've been secretly holding on to Bitcoin. I mean, the fourth largest government holding on to Bitcoin. Obviously, we know United States, China, but the fact that Ukraine has, the fourth largest, that's huge. That's really going to allow for them to position themselves to be a powerful country. So definitely some huge upside with Ukraine and its authority with holding on to Bitcoin. BlackRock, Larry Fink, CEO, I mean, he is keeping his enemies closer. I mean, currently at 631,000 Bitcoins, worth $65 billion. BlackRock does not slow down. They've been just buying more and more Bitcoin. They're ahead of the race when you compare, a financial institution compared to like Strategy. But Strategy started off as a smaller multi-million dollar company. They took a risk and they grew to become a multi-billion dollar company. So Strategy currently like at 568,000. They're neck to neck with BlackRock, but BlackRock, considering them being like the biggest financial institution, MSTR is performing very well, and eventually they'll become one of the biggest public companies because of the HODL amount, similar to how much BlackRock has, with an average cost of 69,000 per every Bitcoin purchase. So definitely Strategy is the king titan along with BlackRock. BlackRock also owns Strategy stock. So, if Bitcoin goes up, BlackRock and Strategy win. If Strategy MSTR stock goes up, BlackRock wins. If IBIT ETF goes up, MSTR wins. So these companies are all going to win. So one love post. Let's hit 110 before we talk about 250,000. Stay patient. 110,000. That's going to be coming very soon. Is it going to be next week or the week after? With the Bitcoin conference coming up, I definitely do think that there's going to be some huge inflows, especially with the entire Trump administration being there. So that's going to be some huge upside. Let's take a look at this post. One Bitcoin is worth the same as 1 kilogram of gold. I mean, you think about it, this block of gold, that's one Bitcoin. How much will it cost to purchase 1 kilogram of gold like 10 years from now? Will it be a tenth of a Bitcoin? Will it be 100th of a Bitcoin? It might be 0.01 Bitcoin to buy this kilogram of gold. At one point, Bitcoin is just going to be more and more scarce, and gold is just going to be not viewed as as a high commodity. And there is speculation that the White House is finalizing plan to sell their gold certificates. So the commercial banks in the United States hold on to a number of gold certificates to realize those gains, allocate those gains to convert to Bitcoin, and that will allow for the US to hold on to potentially 1 million Bitcoin throughout the next 5 years under Senator Cynthia Lummis's Strategic Bitcoin Act of 2025. If true, this really can set Bitcoin price to explode to 150,000. And then we are also hearing states like, New Hampshire, Arizona. I think come next week, we're going to hear about Texas potentially becoming the third state with the SBR approval. So at the state level, states are getting approved. The dominoes have fallen. Now, once the government starts providing more details about, what's going to happen, like we hear about, crypto executive director Bo Hines talking a lot about, as much Bitcoin as we possibly can get with the neutral budget. So all of those talks have been discussed, and we're going to hear more and more details. Bitcoin currently number 6. I mean, they're ahead of Google, $2 trillion. Apple is like, a little bit ahead of Bitcoin, along with Apple, Amazon, Nvidia, and Microsoft. So as Bitcoin price gets to like 150,000 per coin, it's going to be ahead of all of the Mag 7 companies. Think about that. The fact that MSTR has a big time HODL, what does that mean? Strategy is going to leap ahead of all of these Mag 7 companies. And what does that mean? Bitcoin is going to be like right next to gold. We hear Semler talking about how Bitcoin is going to be $100 trillion market cap. That's all going to be coming. And what does that mean? Because strategy is stacking strats, stacking Satoshis, it's going to be the biggest company to date. And will Michael Saylor be the new Warren Buffett? I think that's going to be coming. He's transforming how we look at traditional finance. And I think in the future, when AI becomes more and more advanced, I think AI is going to be dependent on Bitcoin in order to operate. Like machine to machine interaction is all going to be leveraged around Bitcoin usage. So definitely some huge upside. All right, so here's a post. Texas Bitcoin Reserve final vote is likely to occur next week if it passes the second reading in the House on Tuesday, May 20th. So we may hear something early as Tuesday about Texas becoming an official strategic Bitcoin reserve state. That's going to just send Bitcoin price, to potentially new levels if, we hear a big state like Texas getting approval. There's a lot of Bitcoin miners in Texas, like Iron, Riot, we have CleanSpark, Mara. So definitely huge upside in a big state like Texas. Saylor poses, never short a man who buys orange ink by the barrel. So, we've been hearing a lot about, Josh Mandel. I mean, he sold his shares of strategy. He made a lot of, money off of strategy, but he took some profits. And now he's saying that Bitcoin could potentially go down to 84,000. While he does have a use case of a bear use case, he may be incorrect because why? I mean, everyone has educated guesses. I'm going to tell you that there's no prophet out there that really can forecast the exact price point of where certain things are going to go. I mean, it all comes down to, just probability of statistics, and luck comes into play at certain times. But Saylor, I mean, he just doesn't stop. I mean, he just keeps buying Bitcoin. Doesn't matter if it's 100K, 10,000, 50,000. Now his average cost is 69,000. He's going to have another orange dot. I mean, the race is on. He understands that, at one point there's not going to be enough Bitcoin to even buy. So that's why he's buying whatever money he can suck up right now. He'll use it to hodl Bitcoin. So the Bitcoin mining stock guy, I mean, this is an interesting post in that the US's children, are now involved in the Bitcoin mining industry. So Hut 8, Trump's, they actually have a hedge with Hut 8 and like Griffin. So now you see the value in the Bitcoin mining sector. So I definitely do think that the Bitcoin mining stocks, we've been seeing the last couple of weeks, there's just more upside. These things can run very, very fast with high torque, high velocity. So I definitely do think that, the inflows are going back into the Bitcoin mining stocks. So the train is going to be leaving soon. So once the door closes, it's going to be very difficult to try to time the market versus time in the market with this type of sector. So definitely huge upside. For those who joined, thank you for joining. I hope you are enjoying the stream so far. Put your comments, questions in the chat. We'll continue further. So here's an interesting post from Cornet Trades. Okay, so stock is up 80% off the lows with Mara. I mean, he's saying that this could easily 2x from these levels, according to his opinion, and current true points to an attack of this $26 to $30 area. This is a dip buy on pullback. So definitely some opportunity where the current price is with Mara. I still think that Mara is currently undervalued based off of its current share price and market cap, given the amount of Bitcoin they have. 48,000 Bitcoins, price of Bitcoin once it shoots up to 150K. Think about the overall liquidity that Mara has with the accretion of the Bitcoin price. I mean, they're going to have so much liquid on hand when it comes to Bitcoin, along with FASB accounting. One thing that people don't realize. Hello? Can you all hear me still? Before I continue, I just want to make sure. All right, cool. All right, thank you guys. All right, I just saw, I muted, so okay, just want to make sure. Well, thank you all for listening in. I appreciate that. All right, we'll continue, but overall, I think that the miners are definitely looking good. We can't pinpoint which Bitcoin miners are gonna, go up. Of course, there's gonna be some that outperform others, but overall, the entire mining sector is gonna go up together as a collective unit. And the fact that the big time HODL miners, I look at the big time HODL miners. Why? Because I like that variable of hodling onto Bitcoin on their reserve, which is why I rely on those companies like Mara, Riot, and CleanSpark. Of course, other companies that don't have HODL, with innovation, with mining, and having AI revenue, that's good as well. Companies like Iron out there, definitely a huge upside, but I'm gonna base it off of the miners that have a big time HODL, because at the end of the day, it's really a race towards which companies have the most amount of Bitcoin. Like Strategy, Mara, 21 Capital. First Japanese company, MetaPlanet. We'll talk about MetaPlanet as well. An exciting company. Started out in Japan, and now they have a facility out in Florida as well. So definitely the branding is similar to Strategy. Of course, the total Bitcoin amount isn't at that level, but the share price is going up. We'll cover the technicals and the fundamentals as well. Okay, here's an interesting post from Ernest Hamilton regarding CleanSpark. So the latest updates, it shows, Goldman Sachs has been, loading up the boat, and then a lot of people who invest in Bitcoin, a lot of them, are really against the miners, and they have reasons to be against the miners. And of course, when you look at Bitcoin performance over the miners, I mean, it's night and day. Bitcoin, has shown top line performance, while miners have underperformed in the year 2024 and Q1. However, that doesn't mean that the miners are just going to continue to go down forever. I mean, it's part of the Bitcoin ecosystem, and people would say, why not just buy Bitcoin? But here's an interesting take. Why not buy Bitcoin at a 50% discount by just mining it? So, these companies like CleanSpark, with an extremely efficient fleet efficiency, 16 joules per terahash. I mean, with Bitcoin price going up to like where it currently is at 100K, there's a margin, profit margin with, the cost expenditure of mining Bitcoin. So there's profit by just, mining it at 50% off. Here's an interesting post. I'm just going to zoom in. So look at what we see in orange. This shows how much Bitcoin is mined on a monthly scale. So in the year 2025, we see, Bitcoin, total Bitcoins mined every month is around 13,000 Bitcoin. But if you look before that halving event back in April, it was around like 27,000. So Bitcoin mining has cut in half after that halving event. What does that mean? Miner profits have been cut in half. How does that get compensated? Well, we haven't seen that bull run yet. I mean, just look, since this halving event, we historically see big run-ups typically, right? So, following the historical trend of halving events, we do expect, Bitcoin to run up. We haven't seen that happen yet, and that is why there's going to be huge upside with the continuous buying. And I think that's going to all be attributed to like BlackRock buying up Bitcoin, strategy buying Bitcoin. We have companies like MetaPlanet, Semler Scientific, 21 Capital through Tether, Bitfinex. We have El Salvador. We haven't seen the governments yet come into play yet, right? So let's say the US buys up 1 million Bitcoins. I mean, you have only what, 21 million. If the US government buys up 1 million, that's a big chunk of what's out there. And that's just gonna like create a supply shock if you think about it. So there's just gonna be an extremely high demand of Bitcoin. I mean, retail investors like us, we're studying Bitcoin, we're embracing Bitcoin. And I let's say if you don't own any Bitcoin, I would highly recommend start small. Even if Bitcoin is like where the current price is, don't make the mistake of just thinking that Bitcoin is too expensive. At one point, I remember back in 2013, I looked at Bitcoin. I really regret it because I thought that Bitcoin was expensive at $700. I thought Bitcoin was overpriced at $1,300. I thought Bitcoin was overpriced at $7,000, at $70,000. Where is it at now? That mindset will not allow for you to adapt to where traditional finance is going. So that's why it's always important that we study it. We don't look at investing with the rear mirror view. Always look at it from a front perspective, um, front view perspective. All right, so just going through the chat. Thanks, Michael. I appreciate you joining and your comment there. Yeah, so mining blocks, it gets cut every 4 years. Yeah, and Bitcoin tends to go up. I mean, Satoshi, yeah, he's a genius, and Saylor has been studying Satoshi, and he gets it. And this is what Saylor says: if everyone understands what Saylor understands, Bitcoin will be in the millions of dollars right now. But he knows that it'll take some time. He's saying by 2040, in 20 years from now, Bitcoin is going to be $13 million. And he's forecasting that Bitcoin appreciation percentage is somewhere around, like 29% for the next 20 years. Put that into perspective. How much is this going to be 20 years from now? Definitely not one Bitcoin where it currently is. It's probably going to be like 0.001 Bitcoin to buy this piece of gold. Well, people value gold over the long-term course. I think everything is digital now, so people value that more. And the fact that you have miners being rewarded for transacting Bitcoin traceability, that just shows proof of concept with traceability. Bitcoin can't be hacked or anything. I mean, there's no way to decode or break through the Bitcoin system. Let's take a look at the overall price of Bitcoin. So we see some nice movements with Bitcoin right now. I mean, at 105,000, we see some nice movement, since that April time. Bitcoin's climbing. Today, it went up to like 106,000. There was some pullback, but this is good to see, especially, as we open the market tomorrow. Let me know in the chat what you guys think Bitcoin price is going to be, start of the market open tomorrow. Is it going to maintain, over 105,000 or less? What is your take? So I just put that in the chat. Would love to get your feedback. All right. Well, Bitcoin is climbing. That's good news. Getting back to that 106K, and think about it. I mean, we're at right now, 105,000. I mean, back in January 20th, during that inauguration, let me just draw this line. We're like only $4,000 away for Bitcoin to break through its all-time high. Just put that into perspective. Yeah, thanks JG for joining. Okay, Abel has it at 103,000. So the interesting thing about the miners is, it relies not only on Bitcoin, but it also depends on Wall Street. So like S&P, the Russell 2000, for those to go up. So it requires A, Bitcoin price to go up, and B, stock market to go up. At times, Bitcoin price can go down, but let's say if overall Wall Street goes up, miners can, go up. So it's interesting in that because we had such an underperforming quarter, this is where we're expected to see a reversal with the Bitcoin miners. And like to JG's point, the miners may very well offset, the performance of like strategy. Some are believing that, miners may very well dominate in the near term. So as we look at strategy's price point, we're beginning to see a cup and handle form, right? Definitely, we're seeing that U shape. We're seeing that cup forming, some resistance consolidation at that level 2 power resistance at 440, which is what we saw price hovering in 2024. Not at that high point of 540. We haven't got there yet, but I think some healthy consolidation before we see that cup and handle shooting up price as Bitcoin is expected to go up. So definitely some huge upside with strategy. I definitely do think that there's going to be a short squeeze in the year 2025. That's also going to be for strategy and the Bitcoin miners and even the new Bitcoin standard companies that we'll be talking about. So here we're looking at Mara, Riot, and CleanSpark. So we see similar performance. So what's interesting is that when one goes up, the other will go up as well. When you look at it from a day-to-day perspective, yes, there's going to be some differences with performance gains or performance loss, but overall, the technicals look very similar in that the big three hodlers are showing a nice reverse pattern, especially with relative strength, hugely oversold back in February. But what are we seeing? RSI is gradually picking up. We don't want it to shoot up too quick, but we want it to just go up. That shows market confidence. One of the key things that I want to see is the SMA, the 200 SMA. We see the SMA crossing for these three miners, but let's flip the switch on the weekly. Let's take a look at this on the weekly candle. So what are we seeing with, let's say, for example, Mara's weekly moving average? So we see that the 9 to 21 crossing, that's crossing. We're eventually going to see crossing as well for the longer duration crossing, and that's going to allow for a reversal pattern. We're seeing the price activity break out of that bull flag, with that retracement since November. So it's been like 6 months since Bitcoin miners have been just underperforming. So I definitely do think that there's going to be some huge upside with the miners. All right, let's take a look at the chat to see what comments everyone has. So JG, this is what the miners need. Bitcoin doesn't have to go crazy. Just stay strong and miners will lead. I'm with you on that. Okay, Abel with forecast that Bitcoin's going to be around 103,000. I mean, think about it. The good thing is that Bitcoin is over 100K. I mean, having support at 100,000, that's a win-win situation indeed. One Love, the USA got downgraded, could affect the market tomorrow, 105,000. Okay, so I appreciate that contrarian perspective. Okay, Charlie, every millionaire wanted one Bitcoin tomorrow. They could not get one. Yeah, that's right. I mean, millionaires right now can't even afford to buy one Bitcoin. Yes, they can buy Satoshis, but not one whole full Bitcoin. It's much more difficult. There's only 21 million left. Definitely, it's only going to get more difficult. So start small. Abel, Mara took a punch entering the year. Oh yes, I mean the miners got beat up so bad. Everyone lost hope. I mean, Bitcoin miners just took a big beating. I mean, it's a very volatile sector, but where there's volatility, there's vitality too. Yes, it's bad to see the performance drop by like 60, 70%. But when there's type of dips like that, it could just shoot up very quickly. And we're seeing some nice breakouts with the technicals. I mean, breaking out of the bull flag. We're seeing the 50, 200-day crossings, at least with the big three miners. That looks good. So we definitely see upside as well. I mean, we also hear a lot about new exciting companies embracing the MSTR Sailor Bitcoin Treasury playbook. So we have companies like MetaPlanet, a Japan-based company that's making headwind into the United States. I mean, definitely MetaPlanet is a company not to reckon with. I mean, they're like getting close to 7,000 Bitcoin HODL, along with CEP, that is backed by Jack Mallers, Cantor Fitzgerald, Tether, SoftBank, Bitfinex, CEP. I mean, you see CEP launching at $12, going all the way up to $60. We saw a pullback, but since the opening of CEP, it's up 200%. MetaPlanet's at 154%. On Friday, it was up by like 6% for MetaPlanet. So, question is, how high can this go? I definitely do see that there's upside with MetaPlanet. I mean, sometime in this quarter alone, it could easily break through double digits where it's at right now, low $4. I could see like $8 to $10, in 2025. That's easy. Along with Cantor Fitzgerald, where it currently is hovering around like $29, $30. It broke to $60. Of course, we're going to see a pullback. Relative strength was significantly overbought. But because there is a 50% drop off, people are beginning to see that equilibrium around that, that high $20, $30, but it can easily creep back up, into that $40, $50, just over the next couple months. So huge upside with these companies. So we'll definitely be monitoring these companies closely. All right, I'm just going to share with you 21 Capital. So we hear a lot about 21 Capital, but I'm just going to, just put into perspective. So, here's a comparison at that time. Obviously, the Bitcoin holdings have changed since then, but you see Strategy, Mara, Riot, MetaPlanet, Semler Scientific. So these companies are winning. Why? Because they have big time Bitcoin hodls. So Bitcoin value, all of this is just going to be measured over the course of time when Bitcoin price goes up. And because these companies have thousands and thousands of Bitcoin, they're going to be accretive, meaning Bitcoin per share will go up and shareholders will win. And one thing I want to point out is what's so unique about 21. what's different, about 21 versus like other companies like Strategy. So one of the things that 21 highlights is that they're a pure play, just with the KPIs they have, Bitcoin per share, Bitcoin return rate. You see, just with 21, they have use of leverage, strategic Bitcoin accumulation, overall, relative ranking. That just shows how they can, apply their investment strategies, gain market cap, and really deploy the capital to increase Bitcoin per share as Bitcoin price continues to go up. So the difference between 21 versus like MSTR is, 21 pure play Bitcoin exposure, Bitcoin native operations, existing debt balance. I mean, they're focused on leading out their balance sheet along with debt collateralization, insider ownership, and how you look at, purpose-built KPIs. I think it's very interesting how 21 Capital is, assessing, Bitcoin per share and Bitcoin return rate as a way to monitor, their overall growth strategies when it comes to innovative Bitcoin KPIs with BPS and BPR. So definitely, you see here, 21 is potentially superior vehicle for investors seeking capital efficient Bitcoin exposure. And most of you are wondering, how does this all work? So we won't go too much into detail, but this is all through SPAC shares where we currently are right now, with Tether, Bitfinex buying up like 31,000 Bitcoins. At one point, we're going to have, purchases from 21 along with additional purchases that Tether will buy, 10,500 Bitcoins. And then that will then convert to 21. And at that point, the total amount of shares will change. So where we are right now, it's a low float type of play with the SPAC shares available. But once it officially converts to 21 as a company, there's going to be available shares is going to increase significantly. So that's where we will really get a perspective on what the overall MNAV is, what's the current cost expenditure liabilities, and we'll see more of the assets and the stockholders' equity on hand at that point. One thing I want to cover is MetaPlanet as well. I know there's some of you that are interested with. So Peel Banana joined. Thank you. I appreciate you joining. So before we go through MetaPlanet quickly, let's take a look at Bitcoin price. All right, so 105,815. We're getting, a couple percent away from that all-time high. So, we're like 3.5% away from reaching the top. Question is, are we going to break through that all-time high come tonight? We'll see. We'll see. So most of you are wondering, what is MetaPlanet? So MetaPlanet, I mean, look at their highlights. They have 6,700 Bitcoins. They're a number one performer. They have 64,000 shareholders. Only Bitcoin proxy in Japan, number 11 ranked globally. I mean, they're just finding ways to buy up more and more Bitcoin. So they're number one in Asia right now. Definitely a company that is really, driving growth. I mean, Japan's leading Bitcoin treasury company right now. Look at the Bitcoin NAV, 103.1x. Our performance in 2025 year to date, they've, increased their Bitcoin holdings to 5,034 Bitcoin. Bitcoin MNAV, year to date, 3.9x. So growing their market cap. Definitely some huge upside. I mean, look at the total assets in 2024 Q4 compared to now Q1, 55,000. I mean, million. I mean, 81% change. So definitely growing as a company. Definitely an accretive company. I mean, you look at their Q1 2025 revenues, Bitcoin income generation, and this is through Bitcoin price going up, as well as being a hotel business. But most of their revenue is coming from the accretive nature of Bitcoin's performance. So very futuristic company, and when you look at their overall key performance indicator, it's very similar to Strategy. Bitcoin yield, that's really just like your Bitcoin per share, just a different way of stating it when it comes to like 21 Capital. But just look at their overall exponential growth in Bitcoin Treasury. Now, the difference with MetaPlanet versus Strategy is Strategy has been in the game like for 5 years now, buying Bitcoin since 2020. Now, with MetaPlanet, they've been buying Bitcoin for the last 13 months. So they haven't been doing it for like 5 years. But look at what they've been doing, since Q2 2024, ramping up the total amount of Bitcoin purchases. So Bitcoin yield percentage has been growing. The profits, because of the amount of Bitcoin they have, has been growing. So MNAV has been substantially increasing. So, I think that the share price where it currently is right now at like, let's take a look, at, let me just, current price, MetaPlanet $4. I definitely do see that it can get into that double digits, $10 for a MetaPlanet. So Abel, I hope that gave you some nice overview on MetaPlanet. I know you've been asking, so I gave it to you. I hope that was valuable, and I hope everyone finds the content valuable as well. But let's now talk about Q&A. Bitcoin at 105,000. Let's zoom in on the the 1 minute. Look at this puppy running right now. I mean, when it went to 106, 106,000 earlier, there was some profit taking, but what's going on right now? I mean, this is looking solid. In about an hour, we're going to see, the night market open, and then we're going to see how the stocks perform. But this is looking very good. We're seeing Bitcoin, confidence growing. I mean, CMC is showing that we're in that 66 when it comes to fear to greed. But what are your questions? Put it in the chat. Yeah, I definitely do think, Mara, the current price, it's significantly undervalued, which is why I think that the Bitcoin miners right now, it's gonna like double or triple or even like, 5x from the current price. So Michael McGowan, so if you could pick one stock with the Bitcoin play, which would it be, say tomorrow? That's a great question. So um, let's see what everyone would put into chat. Seeing Michael's question, what would be the one stock, Bitcoin miner stock, that has potential to run, come tomorrow? I definitely do think so. That's a good assessment, Michael. I mean, MSTR, I mean, it's been consolidating. There's some resistance at that 400, but I definitely do think that, the big hodl hasn't been factored in yet. And once Bitcoin runs, these big time companies are going to like skyrocket. Also think about, those who invest past the Q2 timeframe. When you have Q2 earnings report, FASB accounting, fair market value for every Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Before the FASB change, you have to price in, on your accounting books, the lowest value of Bitcoin during that duration for intangible assets, but now it's actually the fair market value at the end of that quarter. So like with strategy at like, 570,000 Bitcoin at like the price of like 150,000 per Bitcoin at the end of June. Think about all of that capital, that revenue that strategy is going to report as unrealized gains. So that changes everything in nature. So things are going to rocket. I definitely do think that things are going to rocket. Yeah, Strike and Strife. I mean, it's interesting how Sailor he leveraged AI to create Strike and Strife. I mean, you get like what you know. I don't know if it's like 9%, on Strike or Strife, but you get dividend payouts, and you don't have to pay tax on it. The unique thing about Strike and Strife is that um, it's more beneficial than MSTY. From my understanding, is that MSTY it doesn't qualify as exclusions for tax, so you have to pay tax on the dividends. Let's say if you're not holding it in like a Roth IRA, but like Strike and Stripe has qualified uh, percentage. Yeah, so that's crazy. 10%. I mean, you can't get any better than that. Especially with the conversion. So Charlie Robbins, MSTR. So I'm with you. I mean, I definitely do think that there's opportunity and strategy. The miners. I really don't know which one's going to outperform. It's like flipping a coin. That's why I leverage all of these, and in anticipation for strategy and the miners to go up. Some might have opposing viewpoints, but there's people in here like JG Lee who believe that the miners may very well start catching up. So one love, yeah, good question there. So do you think the miners with a big hodl will outperform those that don't? That's an interesting question, and we haven't seen that happen yet, right? Like we've been seeing like all these miners like Hut 8, Griffin, Core Scientific. I mean, these companies lately they've been going up because of AI. AI just seems like it's been going back up after that big drawdown in Q1. But we're beginning to see a reversal pattern. However, for the miners with the big hodl, we haven't seen that really kick into gears yet. But I think anything with Bitcoin shooting up in nature, when we see that increase in the torque and the velocity in Bitcoin, I think that the companies with the biggest hodl will have the most appreciation over a consistent duration over time. It's similar to like investing into like quality stocks like the Mag 7, right? Because you understand their business. They have a way of generating revenue. And when you look at these new kind of sectors like the miners and like strategy, I mean, the fact that you understand Bitcoin is accretive, companies that have a big hodl will likely end up winning because of this accretive value in nature. So, Mike George, have you ever checked out Core Scientific, the Bitcoin miner and AI high performance compute provider? Yes, I do. Monitor Core Scientific. Definitely a company that has been outperforming with its share price. I mean, it's over $10 right now. It was like combating neck to neck with CleanSpark last week. Like both were like in the $9 range, and then Core Scientific just dormant popped recently because of its AI position as well. So high quality company, and we've heard from Donald Trump, right? The United States is going to be the powerhouse of crypto and AI. So I definitely do think that the combo type of companies have opportunity to really add value to shareholders as well. After just seeing a huge bloodbath with just AI sector recently. And I think just with the recent news from like, just factoring in the macro scale variables, like the updates with Saudi Arabia, United Emirates. There's going to be $3.6 trillion flowing into the United States. What does that mean? NVIDIA, AI-based companies are going to start building, facilities in partnership with Saudi Arabia, even Chat GPT. So AI is ramping up very quickly. There's that partnership with Middle East and the United States. That's going to drive up these AI type of companies, as well as the Bitcoin leverage companies as well. So we have about 38% of millionaires in the United States. But when you look at the total HODL right now, United States owns most of all the Bitcoin. So definitely US is the powerhouse right now. That's an interesting take. Core Scientific. I didn't know about them going bankrupt and then got bailed out by BlackRock. So BlackRock, I mean, you look at BlackRock's total HODL right now, bigger than Strategy's HODL. Uh, Billy Bag Donuts, so got 3,500 shares. Michael McGohan, chicken thigh marinade suggestion quick. I don't know if that's because Billy put KFC in the chat. That's why you're saying chicken thigh marinade suggestion. Oh yeah, so I think everything goes through ebbs and flows, right? I mean, you look at like Hut 8 changing the leadership. Now they're like their stock is like outperforming. You look at Michael Saylor and Strategy at one point, they realized that they were going to be a dying company, whether they want to be a slow death company or a fast death company. They pivoted, changed gears, first company to be, a Bitcoin treasury company, and now they're ahead of the game. Oh, just marinating chicken while listening. But oh, I appreciate that, Michael, and that sounds yummy. Marinating chicken. I hope you. I don't know if you're gonna like air fry that or barbecue that. That sounds delicious. Peeled banana. Yeah, so we're just doing live Q&A right now. So we've gone over 57 minutes. Oh, bake it. Oh, that sounds delicious. Got that crunchiness to it. So, Michael, you could share it with everyone here while we celebrate with, Bitcoin going up. So current price 105,000. We're looking good. Not bad of a day. So Billy Bag Donuts, you think companies like CEP, ASST will run? I don't know what ASST is. I'm beginning to lose track of all of the Bitcoin treasury companies. But we got like MetaPlanet, Semler Scientific. Semler, I mean, Friday they went up by like over 20%. Cantor, Fitzgerald, I mean, going up 600% and then having a pullback. Um, there's huge upside in these Bitcoin treasury companies until we get more and more Bitcoin treasury companies where it gets diluted. That's where there is an opportunity. But I think right now there's still a lot of excitement with these newly created companies that are adopting the Bitcoin standard. So JG, it's going to be a good day for crypto stocks Monday. Yes. So miners, I definitely do think that there's inflows coming in. People like Alfred on Mike Alfred on X. I mean, he's talking about how the miners are going to start running up as well. Interesting. ASST is also Cantor project. Yeah, anything that Cantor Fitzgerald touches, they got Howard Lutnick as he's in the role of U.S. Secretary of Commerce. I mean, his son is now leading the show. They got a lot of money, so definitely anything that the government is involved with at this point with Bitcoin-based companies, there's opportunity for it to to shoot up. But I really do think that the miners have the ability to break out. I don't know if you all are invested in the miners. I know JG is, Able, and others. But just looking at the miners, I mean, they crossed their 50, 200-day SMA. In fact, let me just update this. Let's take a look to see the crossings. Okay, so we're looking at the weekly candle. Okay, so on the daily charts, we've already crossed the 50 and the 200. But look at the weekly. Just for looking at Mara's weekly, eventually they're going to bypass that weekly, and that's going to be a long-term flip the switch where we're going to see the miners start running up based on technical analysis. We already see it, breaking out of that bull flag. So we're off to the races, and I do think that we're going to see a good day for the crypto stocks come this Monday. ASST. So that's interesting. Let me just take a look at that. Oh my goodness, ASST. 900. Wow, it's over like 1,000%. I don't know what the heck is going on, but it looks like it's breaking out. That's for sure. Oh, Billy Bag Donuts. That's so cool, man. I appreciate that. And you sharing ASST. Um, Thank you for finding me. I don't know how you found me, but I appreciate you supporting the channel. Um, yeah, hit that subscribe and join the fun. We're all learning together. We're no experts here, but just a community sharing information. Um, So peel banana, I did a linear interpolation on Mara from the top, and I have a weighted speed on how fast it has been going up. Yeah, just looking at Mara, I mean, just over the recent, just looking at the weekly, I mean, we have these big green candles. We had, the last 5 weeks, we had four or one, actually one, two, three, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The last 6 weeks, we've had four green candles, but these are some big run up candles, while two red weak candles that are small losses only. So it's been going up from that low point. That also applies to Riot and CleanSpark. So these companies go hand in hand together. All right, so Mara is currently going 33% of the speed. It was relative to the price of Bitcoin during the top. Mike, do you think MSTR holders should branch out into companies like 21 Capital or just stick with MSTR? So, Mike, great question there. I think it depends. Like, let's say if you're a long-term investor, you believe in MSTR. I see upside, investing into strategy long term. I do see it potentially going into the 1,000+ range. But let's say if you are interested in other companies as well, like other Bitcoin treasury companies, you can definitely, one day, let's say if it drops down, you see a price point that looks tasty, you can, buy into those companies, make some profits as well. But overall, I mean, 21 Capital may outperform over the course of time, but when you scale out in the long run, I think that, it really depends on understanding why you're invested in a certain company. That's going to be most important. So just understand the why piece, why you're invested into strategy versus why you want to invest in the 21 Capital. All right, so peel banana, Bitcoin 110, Mara 17, Bitcoin 120, Mara $22, Bitcoin 130, Mara $30. That sounds reasonable, but I do think that that's that's a moderate to conservative level for Mara price. Bitcoin, if it, yeah, these are definitely conservative, but I do see the reasoning behind your price points there. Those seem more reasonable, but definitely on the conservative level. All right. Well, we've gone over 1 hour. I just wanted to thank you all for the dialogue and the excitement, everyone sharing updates. And, I hope that you all enjoyed this live stream. I tend to do it, once every, Sunday. Thank you for joining. Yes, JG, thanks for, being a loyal support. I really appreciate you, constantly watching, commenting, and providing your feedback. So always appreciate you, man. Along with One Love, Peel Banana, Mike George, Billy Bag Donuts for finding this channel. I hope you all have great rest of your day. Bitcoin price, let's take a look before, we end at 105,640. We're looking very good. So, it's definitely looking like a positive upcoming week. Thank you, Abel, for you supporting the channel. And any feedback you can share, would love the feedback. Um, thank you, Peel Banana. I appreciate that on your assessment. Yep, and thank you all for joining. So you all have a great rest of your day. And Bitcoin price is going up at 105,000. Can it break through the all-time high today? You never know. All it takes is one big green candle. We're going to be off to the races tomorrow by market open. So let's see how things go. We're looking very good after a bad Q1. But we have a solid environment right now. Just with all of the news that's going on, tariff news, it's kind of calming down now after just the negotiations coming into play. The macro scale updates, it's looking good. Bitcoin is retracing back to the prior resistance. We may very well gap up to that 120, 140 range before we see the further step up. But email, Abel, DM me on X and I'll share that with you. Yeah, just message me on my X account and then I'll definitely relay that to you. But all right, guys, take care. And if you haven't already done so, I released a video today, so I would encourage taking a look at those updates. All right, thanks, guys. Take care.